Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Deli Nightmare and I write dark and erotic, paranormal, and monster romance novels. Now, you may be wondering what I am doing on YouTube, and I wanted to furtherly put myself out there and gain more of a social media presence, and I wanted to be able to also talk to you guys about my novels and have you guys be able to comment and connect with me more instead of just being the writer of a book and just being on paper or just seeing like most of my like profile pic. And this way you guys can see my face and be able to understand more of my books if you want a specific question answered and just anything like that. And there's going to be more on this channel. I wanted to be able to have a chance to review other books in the monster romance community and also paranormal romance, fantasy, horror, anything like that. I wanted a chance to review those and put more writers forward using my channel, and I wanted to also be able to play video games and talk about that, and I wanted to review even movies and TV shows. And we're going to be escaping from reality in my YouTube channel, so we're going to go straight to it. And I wanted to share some of my books, which are all fantasies at the moment. They're all dark fantasies and one historical romance. Now, I have all of them here. Let's get straight to it. Now, the first book I wanted to talk about is The Siren's Mistress, Waterbrides #1, written by me, Deli Nightmare. Now, this series is mainly for sea creatures and sea life, like sirens, like mythical creatures, and krakens, and even sea witches will be featured in this book. So there's all sorts of things, and there's even their own species in here. There's something called sea devils. So there's all sorts of things I wanted to explore with this book in this series. And the first one is just about a siren and his bride, which is a human. And this is the front cover, and this is the back. This is the island that she lives on, Gimgar. And this is the binding. Now, this is a horror romance. I definitely say horror first before romance because this is a traumatic book for an average romance reader. And I say that because when I wrote this, I was inspired by a lot of horror themes, and I was also inspired from romance at the same time. And it got all mixed together, and I tend to love horror romances. Like, one of the ones I think about is Crimson Peak is one of my favorite movies that I watched even in the movie theater. Even though the ending was sad. But that's kind of what this is like. It has a lot more, I think, triggering themes compared to that movie. And as usual, as all my book covers are illustrated, there is a warning right here. It's like one of the first things that you open up to. And I put that there because all my books are illustrated. And that can be confusing to some, thinking this is for a child, as people have mentioned that before to me, like, oh, this is an illustrated book, this is for children. So from there on forward, I had put that right in the front as it being one of the first things that you open up to. And I also got inspired to do an illustrated book cover because I seen a lot of like the webtoon and the mangas, and they're always beautiful. And also the Asian covers, if you look at a lot of the South Korean books, a lot of them will be illustrated. And that always caught my attention, and I wanted to do my own books like that. And I also been seeing that it has moved to America, as seen with Ice Planet Barbarians and other romance novels, seeing the more illustrated, upbeat type of adult book. And with this, just be warned that this is a very triggering and traumatic book for most. It is definitely more horror than it is romance. So please remember that when you're reading. And moving on to the second book, which is from the same series, The Ocean Star, Waterbrides #2. This is a dark fantasy and also horror romance. It continues from the world of The Siren's Mistress. It also introduces a poly relationship between Yvel, Marcus, and Star. And this is my first poly book, but I plan to do a whole lot more, especially within this series. And I can't wait to share more, especially the 3rd and 4th and 5th books. They are going to be quite exciting. Now, this is the back cover to this one. It shows a boat, and that's Star's boat. Also her father's boat. And this is the binding, and just like the other one, when you first open up, there will be a warning page. Now, this one isn't as triggering as the Siren's Mistress. This also has an HEA, so they live happily ever after. That I can guarantee without any lie. So, there is gore, and then there is still a lot of death. But if you're looking for a more easier read compared to the Siren's Mistress, I would pick this one up, but still be reminded that these aren't mermaids that we're talking about. These are sirens. And if you know anything about sirens, they're always usually considered evil. So just keep that in mind if you pick up either one of these 2 books, The Siren's Mistress or The Ocean Star, that these are books about sirens. And there will be books about krakens within the series, and also other creatures and species found within the series. So, that covers the Water Bride series for now, and now I'll be moving on to a different one, a different series altogether. So the next book in book series I want to talk about is Wolves and Mundanes, Monsters Among Men, number 1. Now, this is my historical romance book, but it's also a fantasy, as I do incorporate like the Vikings and actual events that happened, and also a lot of fantasy just due to the fact that he is a werewolf. He is a wolf shifter, and he does look like that. And this is considered like one of my more lighter romances, even though there is still a lot of dark and triggering themes. So this is my most lighthearted one, and it is the first book that I ever published. I published this in 2020, and I do plan on continuing the series, and the next book will continue from Ellie's point of view, just as this book did, as it is not complete yet, but this is the first book. This is what it looks like, and there is a lot of Norse mythology in here, as that where the werewolves come from in this. They're all based on Fenrir's bloodline, and if you know, you probably heard Fenrir's name before, or you probably heard it either from Marvel or something else, but he is an actual son of Loki in Norse mythology, and if you want to read more about him, you can find him on Wikipedia or anything else. And I got a lot of my inspiration from this book series from Vikings and just overall reading about Norse mythology and all about the Norsemen. I really loved it, and I loved researching every aspect of this book. It was really different compared to writing my fantasy series and creating my own things on this, and this one was all based on basically research and also adding fantasy in it. As I said, they are shifters. There is going to be a lot of war elements into this book, so that reason it's considered to me it's like an action, romance, and then fantasy. So if you want to pick up this book and you want more of a lighter read of mine, this is definitely it. The second book will hopefully be coming out next year. So for now, that covers Monsters Among Men, and there will definitely be more Vikings, werewolves, and even vampires from this series. Now, as for the last book to be covered on this series, that would be Visions of Dragons, Taming Beasts, number 1. Now, as you could have guessed from this series, it is about dragon shifters, and it is also about royalty. So there's going to be a lot of fights for the throne, there's going to be a lot of war, there's going to be a lot of rivalry between countries, and there's just a lot going on in this book series. That is why it is mainly taking me a long time to release these books, as the first book was released in 2020, and it was also my second book to ever be published. And it follows the story of Rai, who is a princess of Yulor, and she has an arranged marriage with the king of Oriya, which was Orval. or Orville. And it follows them. That's, as you can tell, that was the front binding, and then the back it's just an ongoing illustration. This one also has a lot of triggering themes just due to the medieval and having a lot of inspiration from those times. There is just a lot of sensitive topics that I cover into this book series. Now that is the first of the series, and as I said, it continues with my most recently published book. I published this book in January. This one is called Whispers of Dragons, Taming Beast number 2. It also covers Rye and King Orville's story. This one has a lot more to it. It is longer. This is the binding to it, and there's just a lot. There's a lot of fighting, and I was trying to find the right word for it, but I just can't think at the moment. But she is pregnant in this, so there is a lot of the book does cover pregnancy, so if you're not just a fan of that in books, then I would not pick up this book or the series, as they are king and queens and they do have heirs. And I don't think necessarily, a lot of readers think that is the last, like, when the character gets pregnant, like, that's all that it is, and then at the end of the story when you have children. To me, in this book series, I did not think that, and I think that was just the beginning of Orville and Rye's story, and having to be parents on top of being king and queen. There is a third book on the way to that, and that will be called Silence of Dragons, and more information can be found on my website, which is linked down below. Now, that does cover all the published books that I have. And my most recent one was The Ocean Star, which was actually published a few days ago. Now, to wrap up this video, I wanted to share what I'm currently working on, and that would be a Troll's Hunger, the beginning of the Dark Tastes series. Now, that series itself will be focusing on larger and curvier women, and also horror and dark fantasy. So I've been hearing, and I've been getting a lot of messages asking where that was, and that will definitely be coming out in December. I am currently editing it, and it's taking up a lot of my time, and hence there's been like smaller updates on Patreon for me right now, and they've been asking like where I've been, and I was busy publishing The Ocean Star, and now I'm busy publishing Troll's Hunger now. But I still do updates on Patreon. I try to be consistent, and it's just hard with everything going on in my life. But I wanted to also start a YouTube channel on top of it to furtherly talk about my books. And as you can see, we have a hard worker in the back here. He's going to town on that blanket. Now please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Until then, you can feel free to sign up to my newsletter on my website, or give me a follow on Instagram, Twitter, or any other social media that I am active on. I hope to see you guys around. Bye!